streaming.
On YouTube.
Let's see. Wait till, okay, it's starting. And looks like we are up.
We're live and running.
Okay, we are streaming. There's that funny stretched image.
Buddy. And we thank you for joining our live stream tonight. And we want to start off by apologizing that this is kind of later than usual. We kind of wanted to do something special, and everything broke last minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it is sometimes, unfortunately.
It broke last minute, and yeah, it's just not going to work out tonight. We were wanting to edit photos live for you guys, just to kind of show you our process live. Do a little throwback to our original video where we did actually do a tutorial on editing in Lightroom, but unfortunately we're not going to be able to do that tonight, but actually we may try it. It just kind of, the screen looked funky and you can't see like all the information on the sides where you can do all of the editing and follow along with us, but we'll see what happens tonight. But we're going to be talking about post-production, kind of our workflow and why we do it the way we do it, and we'd like to know how you actually produce, if you will, your images as well. So if you're watching this and you want to tell us about that, go ahead and do that. And if you want to show us your work, drop a link where we can check it out. We'd really like to see what you do. So Josh, before we get into any of this, you got something you want to show everybody, I think, don't you?
Yes, I do have something big I really want to announce. So for those of you who have been keeping up with our live streams, I attend GD class and all that, trying to get my education in. And I'm proud to show you this. This is my certificate that says I officially graduated from GD classes. And I'm officially done now. So I want to show you all that because it's really a huge moment in my life.
For sure.
Because that feeling when you finally finish high school, after doing it. I've been doing this for a year and a half about now, so it's really a great feeling that I'm all done now, and I'm looking forward to starting college.
Yep. It's a big, big moment in anybody's life, and so we're proud of you. Glad you're taking your education seriously, and doing that. So that's pretty awesome. It's pretty good.
It is.
I don't have much going on in my life other than saw Avengers Endgame. Won't give any spoilers tonight, but man, that film, if you haven't seen it and you're a superhero fanatic, you need to go see it. It's really good. It's very good. So a lot of unexpected little
right now.
Yeah, I mean, they've made a lot of money off of that film.
Oh yeah, it's blowing up in the box office.
Yeah, they're thinking it's going to surpass Avatar and I think it was Star Wars Episode 7 and all those movies that did really well when they came out initially. So anyway, yeah, should be fun. But as we mentioned earlier, we're talking about post-production tonight. We're talking about when you take photos. Obviously, there's the editing process, and so I thought initially we could just take this from the shoot, what we do after we get done with the shoot, what we do with the images, kind of just talk about our workflow, because that's important. I know many of you probably have your own style, your own workflow in order to get the images ready for your clients, which is definitely what needs to be done if you're taking photos of people and getting paid for it. Right. So yeah, let's talk about that for a minute. So when we go to a shoot, and we're basically, doing our thing, getting the photos, all that type of stuff, what do we initially do when we're done with the photo shoot?
What I like to do is immediately upload them to my hard drive, so I'll have a hard copy of it. So in case anything happens between, transport back from said shoot to our locations, our own separate locations, that way we have a hard copy backed up, ready to go in case anything goes wrong.
Yep, exactly. So we like to do that because the thing is, anything could happen.
Exactly.
Your file could go, or your files could go corrupt, or your card could be bad, or your card breaks or whatever. You never know, and so you want to make sure that you're ready for any type of worst possible scenario thing. We typically don't shoot redundantly to 2 card slots. We typically don't do that. We usually use the other one for overflow.
Exactly.
But the thing is, as long as you have your hard drive or your computer or something by where you can unload the images immediately after you're done with the shoot, that's, in my opinion, sufficient enough. So that's what we do. So we unload the images onto a hard drive or on to a computer. That way we've got, like you said, a hard copy of the images.
Right.
And we'll still keep them on the, the
on the
actual
card that's
card
already in the
itself.
camera.
Right. Exactly. Okay, so after that, what do? What's kind of at that point? Because after the shoot's over, that's pretty much the point where now the editing process starts to begin. So, what do we do? Do we sort? We sort the files typically, don't we?
We filter through all the pictures, get rid of all the blurry, bad imaged ones. The ones that didn't turn out too well.
Mm-hmm.
And then for me, depending on what kind of event it is, I'll kind of break it up. So for instance, in a wedding, I'll kind of break up into 3 separate groups, right? I'll do the main ceremony, put that in one folder, do another folder of detailing shots, right?
Yep.
And then another folder for the afterwards, where we're all gathered around for food and everything. I can't think of the word.
So you like to categorize them into certain
them.
sections.
Exactly.
So like you said, the ceremony, the reception,
That's
whatever.
Yeah. For me, it just feels like it's easier instead of having a huge stack lump sum of photos to go through. It's like a nightmare. This way,
Exactly.
it's categorized. It's smaller. Kind of take your ease off editing, make it a bit easier.
Oh yeah, I mean that's a really good point. Sorry, anybody, I just bumped my mic. But that's a really good point to categorize your images, because categorizing, basically, if you're in the same area, the same lighting situation, you can edit one image and then essentially create a preset and apply it to all the images, and then just do your micro tweaks from there. So that's a good point. So you like to categorize them. I do the same thing. That's pretty much both of our workflows. And then the editing begins. So I kind of want to know a little bit about your style.
My style?
What do you like when you look at an image? It's getting late here, guys. We're both exhausted. We worked all day. So if you see us yawning and sneezing or whatever, that's because, of that. But anyway, when it comes to your style, because there's many different ways you can edit an image and make it look different. What's kind of your style? What are you looking for when you start to edit an image?
I try to keep 3 things in mind. The setting, and that's mainly where warmness and coolness come in.
So your temperature, your white balance.
The white balance. That's one. That for me is a must. The setting, and then what sort of image it is. What session we went to. If it's more of a wedding thing, I'll try to keep it more vivid and lively and bright. Also try to add some, vignetting in there. Try to enclose and capture a specific moment,
hone in on something, yeah.
And then the most important, the sharpness and the focus of the picture. Those are my top 3 things before I cover anything else, minor detailings to the face and things like that. Those top 3 things are a must for me.
Yeah, that's good. And definitely Chad. Hey Chad. Definitely the thing is, when it comes to editing, I think white balance is definitely where you have to start, because that pretty much sets the mood for your entire image. And so for people who don't do that initially, they add contrast or whatever, which is fine. I think it could take them longer to finally figure out the image, because I know for me, I typically go back and forth on the white balance. So, I'll look at it and I'll go, I want it a little bit warmer. So I'll crank it up. I'll come back an hour later and I'll go, oh, it's too warm. And I'll cool it back down. So it's I'm kind of in that process. But yeah, white balance definitely important. Tint is really important to me as well. The magentas versus the greens. For me, I like to mess with the blacks of the image. I like to give them that film-esque look, if you will.
Kind of like a vintage look to it.
Yeah, where the blacks are what they call faded or lifted, where they're not like super contrasty necessarily, but they're contrasty enough that it adds that, obviously, that contrast.
Right.
That's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, in cases like that for
So-
me, where if I have multiple ideas for said image, I'll create a bunch of duplicates and just kind of tweak them, you know.
Exactly. That's a great thing because you can make virtual copies in
Exactly.
Lightroom, and you could have multiple versions and multiple edits of the image, which I do as well. That's totally true.
Yeah.
So yeah, after we, by the way, we shoot in what format? We shoot in
RAW.
So especially for wedding and portrait photography, well, actually, pretty much any photography, you need to shoot in RAW. Well, I can't tell you what to do, but
Right. Our preference is RAW, and that's because it captures everything. If you shoot JPEG, I really don't know how to exactly describe JPEG, but RAW captures everything, and it's editable.
yeah, it's much more editable. JPEG bakes in any settings you have in the camera. So if you're on a standard profile, let's say, and you've got your sharpening at 5, you've got your contrast at 10, whatever, it will bake all that into an image, and it makes it less flexible when it comes to editing, because then it's harder to actually remove some of that contrast or sharpness or whatever, because it's already inside the image. Whereas with RAW, it's virtually flatted out at the beginning. Your white balance, your tint, your color it's almost desaturated in some ways. Not completely, but in some ways it's desaturated. It's not very contrasty and whatever. And that just really gives you a much more flexible file to work with. You have a little bit more dynamic range when it comes to the highlights and the shadows. So yeah, RAW, in our opinions, is the way to go if you're especially going to be doing a lot of shooting when it comes to something like wedding photography or portrait photography. And the beauty of it is, too, and not to make this a lazy excuse for not getting your settings right in camera, but the thing is, I like to shoot in RAW because, especially in the case of white balance, we do a lot of outside portraits.
We do.
And so constantly the sunlight, the white balance is changing around us constantly.
Oh, yeah.
So it's, in my opinion, it's so much easier to use RAW because then you have much more flexibility over that white balance as well, so
yeah,
that's our preference,
Now, the one thing you don't want to be afraid of is RAW does take up a bit more space on the card. So that's why we always shoot with 2 SD cards, especially, or in newer cameras that have the 1 SD card slot and then the XQD cards. Yeah. So don't be afraid of running out of space, It's always, in our preference, it's always better to shoot RAW.
Yeah. And a quick note on the actual size of the SD cards. I recommend, and I know a lot of professional photographers recommend, that you get smaller cards. Some people are getting these like 128, 100, 200, whatever cards, and and not necessarily there's a problem there, but the problem inevitably is that basically if you have all those files on that card and that card goes corrupt and you can't fix or pull those files back, you've lost everything on one card.
That's true.
Whereas with smaller cards, like 32 gig cards or whatever, you fill it up, you take another one. You may only, if you lose a card, you may only lose one, so you don't lose everything. So you've got that thing as well when it comes to cards. But yeah, our editing process is typically that we categorize, and then what we do is we start to actually edit. Your style is more of, depending on the situation and depending on the actual event.
Right.
Your style varies. Mine, to a certain extent, is the same way. I just like to do it in a way where it's more, I guess you could say, that film-esque contemporary style of editing.
Right.
I just really like that style. And sometimes my style changes.
Right.
I'll get stuck on, like recently, I haven't been doing a lot of the faded blacks. I've been doing less faded blacks. I've been doing more of a true black, if you will.
Right.
Shadows. So, it can change as well.
Right. I do want to point out an important thing here. In such cases as us, where we're a company, um, it's always good to have a kind of a collection of past photos and edits, so that way the client can.
Important, because that's really the basis of how you're going to get more clients is your portfolio. So yeah, definitely get a portfolio together, because if you don't, then it's going to be hard for people to hire you.
Right.
I mean, would you hire someone you hadn't seen their work before,
No.
besides maybe like a friend or a family member or something?
No, not really. That seemed a bit shady to me.
Yeah. I mean, imagine someone coming up to you and going, "Hey, I'm a really professional photographer. Don't have any pictures for you, but just trust me. I'm good. And then you get your photos back and you're like, oh, these are terrible. you know, so that could be bad. Actually let's talk about portfolio for a minute. How could someone build a portfolio if they don't have clients coming to them and saying, "Hey, take my pictures and I'll give you money"?
Well, there's several ways. In our case, we maintain our own website, so we upload photos to the website. Um, Another one I've seen in many camera shops I've been to, they'll have albums of printed photos that people have done that are set out for people who mill around and look in camera shops to appreciate, admire, and just flip through.
But how do they? Yeah, that's true as far as actually presenting a portfolio. But how do they actually get a portfolio? In other words, if they don't have any clients to take pictures of, how do they make a portfolio? Do they go to friends and be like, "Hey, can I take a picture?" Or family members? How would they do that?
Uh, Friends is definitely a good start. We've kind of started out that before we got into our business. We did start out with friends,
Did a lot of free sessions.
did a
And
lot
all
of free
that.
sessions.
Yeah.
Kind of asked some favors of people.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, that would be a good idea. Is that if people need to do and get a portfolio, developed for showing clients and whatever, then yeah, definitely pull a friend aside and say, "Hey, do you mind letting me take your picture for whatever?" If of course, if you're not doing portrait photography, then that may not be a problem for you. But if you're doing portrait photography or wedding photography, even see if you can second shoot a wedding with just some professional photographer already. That way you can kind of get your foot in the door,
Right.
So
Of
it's
course,
just some
that goes
ideas.
for all areas of photography. It doesn't have to be just portrait.
Right.
I've seen some really great landscaping shots of in big magazines like well, I don't know, National Geographic, things like that.
Yeah.
They've got some really amazing photographers who shoot in these areas.
That's true. That's true. They're pretty amazing people.
So yeah,
Very talented people.
no matter what field of photography you're in, you can just build a portfolio on just whatever pictures you have.
Yep. Yep. And it's a good start, especially. It can be difficult though, building a portfolio. It can be difficult. So let's talk a little bit about. Actually, no, scratch that. I want to try to show them some examples.
All right.
I was trying to find my hard drive before we started this so we could actually live edit some pictures for them. Obviously, that's not happening.
Right.
But I do have some photos in Lightroom that we can show them how, my editing style is. Maybe we can show them your editing style.
Yeah, let's give it a try.
But let's see what we got here. So sorry, guys. If it glitches on you, I can't really help that, unfortunately. But we're going to get this worked out for you guys. So, oops, sorry, just bumped my mic again. So, yeah, I don't... It's already glitching out. I'm looking at it here. I hope it doesn't glitch out for you guys, but if it does, my apologies.
Technology.
Yeah, technology is wonderful. Okay, here we go. I'll just show you kind of here what we got. Okay, so what we have here is basically, it's freaking out. If this is on the air, I'm so sorry. Anyway, so yeah, it is. That's
Oh
too
boy.
funny. Okay, well, we're gonna run with it anyway. Really quickly. So normally it doesn't do this, but this is typically how I would edit this image. I know you can't see the actual sliders to the right here, but I would add contrast and obviously look at your histograms up here, and make sure that you're not overexposing or underexposing. Make sure that you're good in terms of exposure. And then what I would do is I have a preset for lifted blacks. So there's my faded blacks. I may bring that up a little bit. Actually, I may bring this up a little bit. And then let's see what we got. Whoa. Do this. And then I may bring that down just a little bit more.
So you're more of, to me, it seems like a painting type of set or preset style. I kind of get that feeling by like how dark it is. It kind of looks like a oil-based painting in a sense.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things in terms of editing, I like it in a way where it's kind of, what's the word? It's modern, and it's the faded blacks, as I mentioned before, but it's super punchy as well.
Right.
So like this has obviously some faded blacks, and there's a preset of mine, which by the way, I do have a set of presets called Summer. If you guys are interested, they're 4 main presets that you can download. If you want to buy them, just get in contact with me and you can do that. But anyway, so yeah, these, I like it where it's modern with that the faded shadows, faded blacks, if you will, but where it's still really punchy, contrasty in your face kind of thing. So let's see if I can pull up here an image, for instance. Aha, a picture of you. This is when I was kind of going through this phase of, I want this like bluish greens. So as you can see, the background's like really like a bluish green color.
I remember this.
Yeah.
I remember this.
What were we
session
doing this day anyway?
I believe we were nearby in Giant City doing a couple's portrait.
Oh, okay.
And afterwards, I'm like, hey, I remember the last picture we took of me that turned out great. And I just changed my hairstyle from kind of long and a little bit messy to this straighter, shorter look. Like, let's get a before and after picture of my hairstyles,
Yeah.
So I was like, why not? And we just shot it.
So here's another example. This is of my friend, and this is one of his senior pictures. And by the way, when I zoom in, they're not out of focus. It's just because the photo's missing. It sometimes can pixelate and whatever. But anyway, this image, I kind of went for the same thing. I love this image. It was taken in fall, as you can obviously tell by the yellow leaves in the background. But I'm telling you, dude, this is one of my favorite things about photography is the colors, the actual colors you can get from an image as well. And this is, you can't see it here, but this is pretty heavily edited in terms of colors. So, it's pretty fun.
Yeah, in my opinion, fall is one of the best times of year to actually do some portrait sessions because of all the vivid colors you have.
Oh, absolutely.
That's personally my favorite time of shooting in the year. Summer's good too, but fall just offers so much more color.
This is one of my favorite photos, like, ever, guys. I was actually at a shoot with this couple. Great couple, fun people to work with. So natural as well when it came to doing photos.
I think I know why you like this particular image.
What's that?
And I think...
Tell me why, Josh. Tell me why. You know me. You know what I like when it comes to images.
For me, I think, and I would go for this shot too, just because the way it is, and then the sun bouncing right off them.
Bingo. You got it. So that's
like money.
Yeah, I love this image. And so sorry, guys. The screen's freaking out. I really have no idea why that is. But anyway, the reason I love this image is because of the very fact that you've got that thing, the sun going in between them, which is so cool to me. And then of course you got the nice fall colors.
Exactly.
So the funny thing about this image, when we went and shot these images for them, and this was just a couple shoot, they weren't yellow yet. This was around fall, but it wasn't completely there yet.
Right.
So we actually, what we ended up having to do was actually take the image, and then I had to manipulate the green into like a yellowish orange to make everything look like fall. So let me find another image I did with them that really shows it. This one especially. All of this was green pretty much before I took it and kind of edited it into this yellowish, orangish gold leaves, which I really love the look of this image now.
I know.
After
That's the awesome powers of editing.
I typically try to edit as natural as possible when it comes to color, but
Right.
I was going for a very specific look for these images, so I was like, I have to do a fall, look.
And tell me, how did the client like them?
They love them. They absolutely loved them. They loved the editing. They loved the actual shots and whatever. And we both had a great time working with them. It was just a fantastic shoot. So fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. I absolutely love that image and the fall colors that you put into it.
Yeah, for sure, dude. For sure.
Now let's talk a little bit about my style. My style, I'm more of a cooler guy. So
That's sure you are.
I like, instead of making the image more warmer and more yellowish, I like it preferred whitish. I can take, say, an image like that and maybe make it just a tad bit brighter because that's the way I like it.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that feels on my level a bit more natural than the more yellowy pictures that people like it brighter.
Yeah.
And warmer.
Like a what do they call that? Pastel, whatever it's called.
I'm not quite sure of the term, but yeah, I'm a cooler type of guy. I still like all the vivid colors, so I'll get my greens, my reds, my blues, whatever's in there. That's really like I do it. Otherwise, other than that, our editing styles are pretty similar.
They are, and we try to stay, since we are a company, we try to keep our styles extremely similar. Mm-hmm. That way when people get images, they're very consistent in terms of their final editing and look. You know, it's very stylistic of us to kind of do. So
I know you like the faded blacks, more of the faded movie type things.
Mm-hmm, the film and all that, yeah.
I'm more of a colorful person.
You are, but that's okay, and that's good, actually.
But it's actually good because between the two of our styles, it comes together and works into one bigger picture that works out.
Absolutely.
And we've done that before. You've showed me your presets, and I've showed you mine, and we kind of combine them in the particular preset, so it works.
Yep. It does. It does. That's the other thing. Make presets, guys. Presets are so useful. Don't think you're cheating or making an excuse for not editing. Literally, presets have saved our lives before.
Exactly.
When it comes to getting done images in time for deadlines and all that.
Especially weddings. Weddings presets. We've had, I don't know, that even though we've stomped it down a lot, we still come out with close to, I don't know, 800 to 1,000 pictures.
Oh yeah, easily.
And to have to do individual edits to each picture, that'd take days and weeks on end.
It's a disaster, yeah.
So with presets, it really eliminates weeks down to just a few days.
Yeah.
And a few hours even, depending on how many photos you got.
Yep.
So it's not really a cheat. It's just a better way to, what's the word I'm looking for? Just to smoothly do your editing and keep on a time constraint.
Yep. Exactly.
So yeah, not a cheat.
All right, everyone. Well, I think we're going to wrap it up. I know we're both tired, and you still have a drive to get home.
I do.
You drive a pretty decent way to get here for the live streams, but thanks for joining me tonight, as usual. And thank you, if you watched tonight, for joining us. We do appreciate it. I meant to have a video up today, totally forgot about it, so hopefully it'll be up tomorrow, and maybe one by Friday this week too. Who knows? I know I make a lot of video promises, and they seem to never happen, but I'm going to try to get better at that. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, we appreciate all you do for the channel, and keep watching us because we really do appreciate all that. So
yeah, we do really appreciate your support, your comments, your ideas.
Yep.
And it just makes it better for us to reach out to you guys and get to know you guys a bit more.
Yep. Just don't troll. We don't take trolls very well.
No.
Anyway. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Belingle out.